If you're spending almost $1,000 for a smart fitness watch and daily tracker, you want to make sure that you're making the right decision. So today I'm comparing the Apple Watch Ultra Satin Black versus the Garmin fenix 8. I know a lot of you have been asking for it. So today's the day. Finally, I'm going to go through the things I love, the things I don't love about it, and what I've learned using both of these devices over the past few weeks.
Thank you, LMNT, for sponsoring this video. More on them later.
I'm going to cover the design and durability, the features that I use for working out like running and training for a marathon, battery life and charging, the integrations with other kinds of devices and gadgets that I need for training, GPS accuracy, health metrics, some random features that I like, and lastly, their smartwatch features. Now, just to discuss the price, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 Satin Black with the titanium Milanese band is $899. I think it looks super clean with this new band, but the band is pretty expensive. It's $199 if you buy the band on your own. This is in comparison to the Ultra 2 in natural titanium with kind of the ocean band. This one's $799. If you get this new band, it's $899. In comparison to the Garmin fenix 8, which I have the 51mm here, which is their largest and most expensive size. And this is $1,200, which is crazy, but it is much bigger. If you put them side to side, you can tell how much bigger the Garmin fenix 51mm. They do have 3 sizes of this, so you can get smaller versions, just note that. So they're not cheap. There are laptops that you can buy in these price ranges, and you can buy multiple cheap watches if you really wanted to for the same price as both these watches. And that's where the most important question is. Do these things hold up? How well can they endure challenging environments? Now, both watches with these bands work in swimming, diving, certain depths for scuba diving, even showering with them and rinsing them out because you want to make sure that you keep it clean, sweating in all kinds of environments, working out, and even just walking around places. I accidentally hit my watches up against a lot of things, and both of these watches have gone through the gauntlet. So my first thoughts is the design. They're both pretty big. When you put them on initially and you've never worn watches this big, you can feel the weight of the watch. I've gotten used to them over time because I wear both of them almost every single day, but they do protrude when you're wearing them. You know, they have a pretty decent amount of thickness. They're not super thin compared to other watches. The Garmin has this design, look and feel of very high intensity. Like, I'm an outdoorsy person. This is not a classic watch I'd wear to like a dinner, but it says, hey, I love to work out. I'm a fitness freak. I'm hiking mountains. I'm doing triathlons. I'm running ultra marathons. Whereas the new Ultra 2 in satin black can be a little cleaner. The action button, I think, yells, hey, I like to do fitness potentially, and I wish that it was all black, but it can be a little more discreet, especially with this titanium Milanese loop, that I might be able to wear this out on a fancy dinner. I'll have a video out on this soon as well. But it's a bit more discreet, but it does have that rugged feel with the digital crown and the orange tints that you see on both sides of the watch. So it's not fully a watch that you could wear to a fancy dinner and feel confident if you wanted to, in my opinion. If they took the orange away, I think that's where you kind of get to that level, but it still has somewhat of a rugged feel. Now, when it comes to durability, both these watches are super durable. I've banged them up against the wall. My Ultra 2 I've had for longer, and if you look at it, there is some like white residue, I think, in this corner. I tried to rub it off, but it might have been scratched. If you look right there, you can kind of see that. The black titanium is supposed to be stronger than the natural titanium just because of the coating that they put on it. But so far, it looks pretty strong. There's only that one small area that kind of looks like it might have gotten scratched. And there's a bit of white over there. The fenix 8 I haven't had as long, but so far it's holding up pretty well. Both of the past watches that I had from both these brands held up extremely well. Nothing went wrong. I think one of the issues I had with the fenix 7 and the Epics was the buttons would sometimes stop working, and I'm not sure if something got stuck in there, but the new fenix 8 has these capacitive buttons. So they're not actual buttons. It makes it feel like a button. So I think that should solve a lot of the issues with, I had to get both my fenix 7 and my Epics replaced because of the button issue. But I think with this new update, there should be no button issues. And then in terms of the display, we have the new AMOLED display on the fenix 8, which is gorgeous and stunning. I love the colors. It looks so good. It still does feel a bit laggy. I would love it to be faster and quicker, whereas the Apple Watch is just a smooth experience. It feels exactly like your iPhone. The Apple Watch Ultra 2 does get brighter than the fenix 8 in bright sunlight. That's the one win for the Ultra that I like. But they're both pretty strong. We can see them in bright daylight, and you'll only notice a small difference when you're wearing both watches at the same time. Now, battery life and charging. One massive difference between these two watches is battery life. I'm at 37% with 11 days on the fenix 8, the 51mm. Whereas the Apple Watch will last me 36 hours. I will charge it once or twice a day for just, 15 to 30 minutes. I'll put it on the charger. And you can see I fully charged it around noon today and then took it off the charger again. And it's about 84% in the past 4 hours. So this will last me a day. It'll get me very long runs. It'll help me achieve that. But when it comes to the Garmin fenix 8, I can take this for a week long sometimes, maybe even a 2-week long trip if I'm still using GPS, and the watch lasts forever, which I really love. That's nice, but at the same time, I forget to bring my charger when I travel because I'm like, oh, I never need to charge this. It's always working. So that's one of the downsides, whereas the Apple Watch, I know I'm charging it every day. So I always have the charger with me. And then when it comes to charging experience, the Garmin uses a USB-C cable to a plug. So you do have to take the watch off, obviously, and you plug it into this port. It's not the smoothest experience. It's like plugging into a port on your phone, and then you kind of have to wiggle it out. It's nice, it works, and it gets the job done. It's not as seamless as the Apple Watch, where the charging experience is you slide it on a magnet. So this is just the portable charger here that I have, that I really like from Anker. And I can go ahead and just slide this on, and now it's charging. Boom. And it's just like that. It's super magnetic. I can take it off, I slide it on, and it just works. I don't have to plug anything in. I don't even have to look. I can do it with my eyes closed. I slide the charger on. Boom, I know that I can feel the magnets connected. We're done. So I do personally prefer the charging experience on the Apple Watch, but I do love the battery life on the Garmin Fenix 8. Now, what I like about the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and the Series 10 supports even faster charging, is fast charging. So Nomad sent me this charger, which is purely an outlet. It's great. I can plug it into the wall. I have the Apple Watch charger on the top, and then I can charge my laptop, iPad, and iPhone via these USB-C ports. So this is extremely nice. So it's super easy just to lay my watch on there, and I can charge it, and I can travel with this. So this makes it easier not to forget my Apple Watch charger, which I do appreciate. So thank you, Nomad, for sending this over. I'll have an affiliate link down below for all the Nomad stuff that I use and I love. Next is integration. So having all these watches, I think I have the Fenix, I have the Epics, I have the Fenix 8, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in natural titanium, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in satin black. You know, if you have the Epics or the Fenix 7, there is not much of a reason to upgrade unless you want that nicer screen. But performance-wise, they're pretty much on par. Very similar GPS accuracy and heart rate sensors. But there is one major difference, which is heart rate straps. So I love to use heart rate straps. Like this is a Garmin one. I also have a Polar one, which I will wear around my chest. And this uses the electrical signal to measure my heart rate versus the watches use light and optical sensors, as well as I have a core body temperature sensor. I have a sweat test, the FlowBio S1 sensor on here as well. Now, what I love about this sweat sensor is it tells me how much sodium I lost during my workout, and I can make sure to replenish with the proper amount of electrolytes. And that's where our sponsor, LMNT, comes in. So whether it's for these long runs, marathon training, sauna, or any intensive fitness workout, my go-to mix has always been LMNT, because hydration, especially for intensive and long distance activities, is not just about water, but also getting your sodium, potassium, and magnesium in. I prefer to hydrate without the added sugars of popular sports drinks. Actually, my absolute favorite flavor is the raw, unflavored version of LMNT. I feel like it just has the least amount of things in it. It's simple and it gets exactly what I need. The way that I use it is I'll take one LMNT pack whenever I'm doing an intensive fitness activity. If I'm doing a long run, especially for marathon training, I'll take one right before I work out, and then I try to do about one per hour. And that's just because I know from testing that I sweat a lot and lose a lot of water and electrolytes. And that has allowed me to maintain my energy during these runs. And LMNT is offering you a free sample pack with any purchase. Just click the link in my description. Head to drinklmnt.com/Shervin to get your free sample pack. Stay salty, stay hydrated. Now back to my two favorite running watches and how these hardware integrations work. And the downside with the Apple Watch is the integrations aren't that great. So the first one is heart rate monitors. Yes, it works, and you have to go into settings, into Bluetooth, and connect to the chest heart rate monitor. But every time I'm doing a workout and I want to use my chest heart rate monitor, I prefer to know that it's connected or not. So I do need to go into the settings app, double check that it's connected under Bluetooth, and then go back to my workout app. And on the Fenix 8, once I start my workout, it's gonna have blinking lights for all the previous devices I've connected. And if one is connected, that thing will be solid. So heart rate monitor, it'll be solid. Or it even notifies me that it's connected to the chest heart rate strap. So being able to start a workout and know that I've connected to my third-party devices is a huge benefit on the Garmin versus the Apple Watch. I have to jump through settings and a whole bunch of loops, and it becomes this process where it's not conducive to using more than just your watch as a tool for fitness and working out, especially for cyclists who use like bike computers and other things like that, and marathon trainers who might use running pods, heart rate straps, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And maybe all that stuff is excessive and unnecessary, but if you do want to use it, it's easier on the Garmin. That's the hardware side. From the software side integration, both devices support Strava. So if I want to upload my workouts to Strava, what's nice about the Garmin app is Garmin uses kind of like their own cloud platform. So as soon as I sync my workouts to the Garmin right here, it'll instantly send to Strava. And I just have to set this up in my settings. So I'll go to settings, I drive down to connected apps, and here you can see all the things I've connected. But since I have Strava connected directly on the Garmin app, I never have to worry about manually uploading things. It automatically sends my workouts to Strava as soon as I finish them, and I can change my settings in there if I need to. But even if I get new watches and I change things, as long as it uploads to the Garmin app and then the Garmin app cloud is working, sometimes there are issues, it'll instantly send it to Strava and I don't need to think or worry about it. The major difference on the Apple Watch is I have to go to the Strava app and use the Strava app natively to either manually or automatically sync it via Health Kit. The downside there is sometimes because of iOS restrictions, if my Strava app isn't open, if I don't have certain settings turned on, background app refresh or like motion activity, then when it comes to syncing my Apple Watch data, I actually either have to manually do it so I can go to my notifications, I can go ahead and find the run that I did and import it. I used to do this when I only wanted to import runs and nothing else. Or I can turn on automatic uploads, which I just prefer not to do, but it does require your phone to read all that information, which it just becomes a little bit more of a cumbersome process, and it creates a higher variability that it might not work perfectly dependent on your settings. So in that sense, I prefer the Garmin's when it comes to Strava integrations. It's getting really hot in here. Whew. Now you can sleep with both of these watches, not in that way, but you can sleep with them on your wrist and they will track your sleep. Things like heart rate variability, respiratory rate, skin temperature, blood oxygen. There are certain settings you actually need to turn on to get that information. But even just looking at the sleep data, I can see they're both about 15 minutes apart in terms of total sleep. So not every device is going to be accurate. I have done a video where I compared all these devices against a sleep study, and they can be all over the place. So I take it with a grain of salt. I tend to look at total sleep time and just understanding my general sleep trends rather than going into minute details of, hey, how much deep sleep did I get this night versus that night? Because when you wear multiple wearables, you realize that you're gonna get such different data from all the different wearables. I do love on the Garmin that I'll get a race predictor. It says that I can do a 3:45 full marathon. Whereas on the Garmin, there is no native race predictor support. It does let me do things like race routes where I can race myself on a previous route to see what time I get, but there is no like prediction methods there. But Apple now does have two new things, which is vitals and training load, which I would say is similar to training status, recovery time on the Garmin. And that just allows me to understand, hey, am I pushing it too hard? Am I detraining? Both those devices will kind of give me this guidance. The Apple Watch does it based on heart rate and intensity, as well as a subjective metric that you must input each time you work out. And then the Garmin kind of just automatically does most of it. They do take some subjective info as well. But I think those charts are a great reminder when you get a little lazy, hey, you're not working out, get back out there, start running. So I do love that both of these watches have that new training load, training readiness features built in. It also helps slow people down who work out too much, too hard, and they might need to do less. Now, when you look at the steps, they're pretty close. 25,700 on the Apple Watch Ultra 2, 24,800 on the Garmin Fenix 8. So I wouldn't, I think it's good to look at the, yeah, I do a lot of steps. It's good to look at all the steps that you take just because I think getting your 10,000 steps in can be helpful. So both these watches are maybe, almost 800, 900 off, which is a decent chunk for the steps. I've been trying to wear both watches at the same time the entire day. So not sure how that metric might be off. If you want me to, I can run a more specific experiment on steps. Next is the Smartwatch features. So I love wearing the Apple Watch as my main device. Like I will probably always wear this. One big factor is Apple Pay. Being able to pay for things. I use Express Transit, so when I'm on the subway, you don't even have to like tap anything. I just tap my watch and pay, which I could also use my phone for, but it's just easier when I'm carrying stuff and I just want to tap my watch super easily without having to pull stuff out of my pockets. There is Garmin Pay on the Garmin device, but some cards are not supported, which is a bit challenging, and you do have to type in the code each time you put the watch on when you're trying to pay, whereas the Apple Watch will ask you for the code when you initially put it on. So there are slight increased barriers of entry and less supported cards on the Garmin device versus the Apple Watch, and they do support things like weather, calendar, almost everything supported. The biggest challenge is you can do a little bit less. On the Garmin, I can see my event, some details and the address. On the Apple Watch, it's the same, but then I can get directions to that place with Apple Maps. There's just more deeper tied integrations on the Apple Watch Ultra when it comes to the smartwatch devices and smartwatch features. Now we're going to talk about GPS and heart rate accuracy on the Garmin and Apple Watch Ultra to see what the numbers look like. I have 4 outdoor runs that I've done from 60 minutes to 3 hours. Let's compare. Now I'm gonna start with the first run. That is a 3-hour run inside Central Park. I had the Fenix 8 51mm connected to a Garmin heart rate strap, just to show that to you. So the heart rate data is from a heart rate strap. If we look at the heart rate data from this first graph here, there was a bit of a pause in the middle. It was really cold outside. So one of the things I did notice was the Apple Watch being off, and if you're curious, purple is Apple Watch, blue is Garmin, and the purple was the heart rate Garmin strap. which there were spikes up here and the Apple Watch did not get that. I think because of the colder temperatures and optical heart rate monitors requiring skin perfusion, that could have just created these inconsistencies. That happened near the end of the run. It could also be me just sweating a lot. The heart rate strap could have slipped down more than it should have been, or I was tugging and moving it. But then if we look at things like elevation, they're relatively close in terms of the dips and valleys. They might be off in terms of their base values, the developer fields, and then the most important piece is the GPS. Are we able to track the same distance and data? So one thing I have noticed is the Apple Watch Ultra will always have a shorter number in terms of distance than my Garmin, but this was one of the very few runs where the Apple Watch actually had just a slightly bit more of a distance than the Garmin did. Now we can zoom in to see the GPS tracks, and for the most part, remember, purple is Apple Watch and blue is Garmin. When I'm outside near the water, that's where I think the GPS is the best. On the piers, it does extremely well. There's no bouncing around. You can see, look at this. They are almost in line with one another. I did run this track twice and there's no changes. It's when you get inside of the city and there's big buildings, or on this Pier 57, I know there's big buildings. So the Garmin here, it looks like kind of straight in on the pier into the building, whereas the Apple Watch stayed outside. The Apple Watch does have smoother data too because they're using Apple Maps data. If we look on here, the same thing. The Apple Watch seemed to have jumped into these buildings because it's purple. The blue Garmin stayed on the street a bit here, but it jumped into the buildings there. So it's when we're getting near large buildings where the GPS gets a little messed up. If we go up the West Side Highway, very, very consistent. And then it's this segment here where we're starting to go in the street where these two start to separate a little bit more. You can tell one of them runs into the buildings. That's the Fenix 8. The Apple Watch is probably smoothing that data out with Apple Maps data, but there is a point here where they both kind of get a little confused. And I think we ran through a little park right here. So they're not perfectly sticking together there. Once we get to Central Park, bam, 1 and 1. So I would say in terms of GPS, these are a couple percentage points off. There's not much of an accuracy difference. Run number 2, this is on the East Side Highway. The Garmin was not connected to a heart rate strap. The heart rate, you can see there are some inconsistencies near the front and the back in terms of both devices. Elevation, somewhat close, but there is a pretty big separation here. And then the GPS tracks. So let's see, East Side Highway, different scenario. So for this run, there was a lot of scaffolding when I was running through here, and I want to see how well it would do with the scaffolding. Purple is Apple Watch. Look how smooth the Apple Watch line is on the street. So they're definitely using Apple Maps data to smooth this out, whereas the Garmin fenix 8 struggled a bit more in the scaffolding, in the streets here. They're not perfect because they're not in the street, but the Apple Watch data is so much smoother and it was probably recording less distance, and the Garmin Fenix thinks I'm like zigzagging. So that's a big difference right there in terms of scaffolding and using Apple Maps data. When we did come to the East Side Highway, there are a ton of bridges as well, so it's very hard to get good GPS data. You can see both tracks kind of jumping around a little bit, but still relatively decent. I would say they're very well tied together when on the East Side Highway as well. And then I did run to the track. So one thing I love about the Apple Watch is that it has track mode. And if you look at the Apple Watch, the purple, the curvature is perfect. It's perfect to the track. And that's because as soon as I showed up to the track, it asked, what lane are you in? It like buzzed me, and I just tapped lane 3. And I said submit, and it was that instant that as soon as I got there, it started to snap this GPS data. You can see right here to lane 3, and it stuck to lane 3 until I left the track and it exited track mode. So that's one massive advantage on the Apple Watch Ultra that I love, and the other series watches too, where it snaps to the track and it makes sure that you're getting the best GPS data possible. Whereas the Fenix 8, you know, there's a little bit of wavering off of that lane. It's not able to stick to that exact track unless I switch to the track mode, which is another step, and it becomes a bit more complicated. So for me, I was off the track, I came on the track, instant change to track mode, instant change to leave track mode. The Apple Watch Ultra made it seamless, and I love that about my Apple Watch. Third one, Central Park, no heart rate strap to the Garmin Fenix. 51mm AMOLED. Now this is where the heart rate stuff starts to jump around because of the weather and most likely how I was wearing it. The Apple Watch is purple, the Garmin is the blue. They started to separate about 38 minutes into the run. In that second half of the run, it seems like the data was a bit all over the place. So I'm not sure what might have happened there at that point. And this is where if you want to get decent heart rate accuracy, I highly recommend wearing a chest heart rate strap. I am using the new titanium Milanese loop, which could also impact heart rate accuracy on the Apple Watch Ultra. And I try to tighten my bands as much as possible to get the best information. Elevation, relatively close. GPS tracks. I run almost on the same way, so look at that. It's perfect, perfect, perfect. It's the same thing. We get into these roads, Apple Watch, smoothed out with Apple Maps data most likely. Garmin, it's jumping in and out a tad. We get to Central Park, perfectly aligned. I've never seen such good GPS tracks. Both of these watches, amazing and perfect. Wow, just look at that. So clean. Last run, not in New York City. This is Georgetown, Cayman Islands. Heart rate strap with the Garmin fenix 8 47mm. Smaller watch, slightly worse battery life than the 51mm. Let's see how it looks. Heart rate data, so on par with one another. It was a warm day. I was extremely sweaty. So the heart rate strap and the Apple Watch Ultra seem to be pretty much very on top of each other. Just like two people who are in love. One day I'll experience that, right? Elevation seems like they're kind of all over the place. It is only 2 to 8 meters, so not a massive difference. Now, GPS tracks. This is an island out in the middle of nowhere. There's great views of the sky, so I'm expecting this to be perfect 1-in-1. GPS tracks are great. They're following the road. Very small discrepancies. You can barely tell any differences. It looks like one line to me. Small minor changes. I ran this twice back and forth, and it looks like there is literally not a single discrepancy between these maps. Look at that. Wow. Because this is in a space where there's no buildings, potential trees blocking it, amazing GPS tracks. If you don't have multi-band GPS, it'll probably perform amazing here too. And when it comes down to GPS, distance pacing tracking, both these watches are truly amazing. When it comes to heart rate, you might get some differences in separation in between the two. The Apple Watches have shown to have better heart rate, especially the smaller ones with bands that you can tighten to the exact tightness that you need on your wrist. The bigger watches in general are just gonna have more weight, more movement, and it's gonna decrease the potential accuracy of your watch. So just keep that in mind when you're buying a smartwatch for fitness tracking and running when there is a lot of movement. I prefer using Bluetooth or Ant Plus to connect my chest heart rate strap to that device just to get a little bit more accurate heart rate data if I'm doing very specific heart rate training. Now back to the last few sections. All right, welcome back. The last thing is random stuff. So I really love one thing on my Garmin that I absolutely wish that the Apple Watch had, and that is the flashlight. So I double tap and now I have this flashlight. So I wear this watch all day long just for this one reason. So when it gets dark at night and I don't want to turn on the lights, just to, keep it dark and maintain my sleep for Huberman, I can use this to look around, or if I'm trying to look inside a drawer that's dark, I use this flashlight. Yes, the Apple Watch has a flashlight, but because I set the action button to fitness, I can't turn it on as easily. I can press and hold and then scroll through and change the flashlight, which I've done once before, but that friction point and that barrier to entry I don't use that as often as I probably should. And it's not as bright. Whereas this one, it's built in, it's at the front. I can double tap it. It's super bright. It's focused. I can change the brightness. I can turn it red. That's hands down one of my favorite features on the Garmin fenix 8 that I wish the Apple Watch Ultra would have. Now, one thing I want to talk about is bugs and software issues and challenges. The one reason I haven't made my Apple Watch Ultra the main device on Strava is the action button sometimes throws me off. I'll hit start workout with the action button and it just gives me this orange screen and it doesn't actually start the workout. And I've had this happen at races when I'm going on a run with friends and I'm like, okay, we're ready to go. I tap go. I thought it started, but it never did. So when you miss those 0.1 miles of your run, you feel extremely upset. And on Strava, people are not going to think you're cool. So that's one of the downsides I've had from a software side. And that's actually happened to me on the Ultra 1, the Ultra 2, and now the Ultra 2 Set in Black. I've done a fresh install, fresh restart with the phone and the watch, and I still kind of have this issue on and off. And I haven't figured out what might cause it. But that's one challenge that I've had. And that just might be because WatchOS and the action button are only 2, maybe 3 years old now. Whereas on the Garmin, they've been around a lot longer and I've almost never had software issues. Sometimes the watch can be a little bit slower, it's buggy. One thing I had with the Fenix 7, I think it was for the London Marathon, was it crashed. At the night before, I'm checking the watch, making sure that everything's working, and the watch just crashed and I did a little loop and I was like, no, this better work tomorrow. Luckily, nothing happened the next day, but the night before, the watch crashing was a bit scary. So yes, both are gonna have some software challenges. For the most part, I've had less software challenges in my overall experience with the Garmin watches than with the Apple watches. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to which watch is going to be my main device for now, just because of the start-stop functions on the Garmin being a bit easier and more trustable from my personal and past experiences, I'm gonna stick with the Garmin as my main watch that syncs to my Strava. I will always wear 2 watches when I work out. That's just who I am and what I like to do. Maybe 4 if I'm feeling a little crazy. So I'm always tracking my workouts on the Apple Watch and the Garmin, whatever device it is. Sometimes I might swap out one of these for a Coros. But I think if you're someone who wants to track workouts, wants to also have lifestyle features, the Apple Watch is hands down the best one to go with. There's nothing else out there. It's gonna encompass everything you need in your life, as well as fitness tracking. It's amazing. People say, oh, Garmin's the best GPS. Apple Watch Ultra 2 is also amazing. They are way up there. I think the Garmin is great. I personally wear it when I work out and then I'll take it off unless I like to use the flashlight feature. The Apple Watch Ultra, on the other hand, I wear it all day. I wear it to sleep. I wear it when I'm awake. I wear it when I'm doing things. It's become a lifestyle device and a fitness tracking device, and it does all those things really well. So depending on what your priorities are, if you're really into fitness and you need those third-party integrations, like for example, my FlowBio S1 does not work with the Apple Watch. They don't have that integration right now. It's only Garmin, just because Garmin is the biggest fitness watch out there and more people who do training use Garmin. So that's why I need to wear my Garmin. If you're someone who doesn't need to worry about all these little nicks and nannies, you might not need that. So go with the Apple Watch Ultra. It's gonna cover all your basics and get you some extra lifestyle features. And it actually saves you like $400 to $500 compared to the Fenix 8. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, follow me on all the socials at Shervin Shares. Watch all my other comparisons of the Apple Watch versus the Garmin. I'll continue to make these videos. If you want to see them, comment below what you want to see next. And I'm going to talk about this new sexy titanium Milanese loop band from the Apple Watch Ultra. Go watch that video. Peace.
I want to thank LMNT for sponsoring this video. Click the link in my description to get your free sample pack with a purchase today.